welcome to the Maverick podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Rose. A big shout out to all the free spirits and the independent thinkers tuning in. I really appreciate your support. Today, we have a special guest. She's a repeating guest, astrologer Pam Gregory, known throughout the world for her amazing humanistic and mundane astrology posts. Pam and I are going to talk about the Neptune-Jupiter Conjunction coming up and the spiritual implications and how you can use that to advance your life. So welcome, Pam. Come on board.
Thank you, Kathy, for that beautiful introduction. But truly, I always default to your knowledge. You are absolutely first world class in what you do and all your teaching. So, respect very much for who you are and what you do.
You're a very loving soul. Thank you for that. So I asked Pam on because we need to talk about the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction that's coming up in Pisces. And it opens the doors for many, many wonderful things. And we're going to have a great discussion about this. And I want to remember as we talk about this to bring it into how Mavericks can use this energy. So I have some ideas about that also. Mm-hmm. So let's start off with the fact that Jupiter and Neptune are going to conjunct at 23 degrees Pisces on April 12th. And you've done a video on it already on YouTube, and it's a wonderful video. So I know you have clear ideas. What are the first things that pop into your head about this conjunction coming up?
Shift of perspective, shift of dimension, and shift of consciousness.
Yes.
Those are the big things. And in the video, I think that the best analogy to explain it I came up with is that very first time that you either go snorkeling or diving in warm waters and you just duck beneath the surface, and there's that moment of going, wow, look at all this life force and color and species I didn't even know existed, just teeming with life. And it's that moment that was always there, but you just couldn't see it. Mm-hmm. And that's how I think this is going to be, that we're going to shift our frequency to suddenly see and feel and experience things that were always there. It just wasn't a frequency match for us.
Exactly. So the spiritually minded people are going to have this opportunity to expand into that. And I call this the soul shift. One of the things when I used to teach with the Free Soul Organization and my friend Pete Sanders, and we would teach a technique called the soul shift. It's a meditative technique where you take your energy and you bring it up through your body so that it's finally all focused in your head. And then you focus up and out above your head. So right now, as I'm talking to you, you can do that with eyes open. You can close your eyes. But if I were to ask you, Pam, take your consciousness and all your awareness and focus about a foot above your head. When you make that shift, you shift into your soul body, your soul frequency. It's an alpha brainwave state and beyond. And then if you were to even just gently open your eyes, you could stay with your consciousness in that area above your head. And you can have eyes open, which is called a bi-level awareness. And this would be using your ocean analogy, which is great. This would be being in the ocean or being in a swimming pool and having your eyes so that they're halfway looking outside above the water and outside under the water, or inside under the water, so it's bi-level view, seeing both levels. How did you feel when you slightly made that shift?
Really, and sort of tingling on the crown chakra. It felt warm, really soothing, actually. Mm-hmm. Really nice. It sort of helped to diminish some of the zzz in the head as well. Yes. So that's beautiful. And that's so simple. And a sort of, I want to say, an unbounded sense of self.
Yes.
That's what's coming to mind, an unbounded sense of self. So we're just sort of expanding the conscious almost beyond our physicality, which has felt so limited, hasn't it? And particularly with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, felt so contracted. Mm-hmm. And our worlds have been so contracted with lockdowns, etc. So there's this beautiful sense of expansion of something very invisible, but very important.
One of the things I think about, if we relate this to Mavericks and the Maverick mentality, which is to say, you know what, I'm going to come up with a solution on my own. I'm going to solve this. I'm going to figure it out. I'm not going to wait to be told what to do. I'm going to take the reins and go ahead and figure it out. That's the Maverick personality. So I think now is a time when people need to learn how to self-channel and how to go knock on the universe's door and ask for a new technique to come through and channel their own spiritual techniques that will help them with whatever's going on in their life, as opposed to saying, I need to have someone teach me how to do this. I need to follow the rules. I need to be trained. And I think, no, go be a spiritual pioneer. Go figure it out.
I love that, because with Jupiter Neptune, we are, I think all of us, going to be given the opportunity for much greater psychic sensitivity, but also Uranus is much stronger this year.
Yes.
It's conjunct those two eclipses, end of April, 8th of November, and the North Node, as we know, is now in Taurus, so they're co-present. So there's a strengthening of that Uranian energy, which is the Maverick, which is I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to play by the rules ever. And so it's a kind of combination of those, isn't it? The strong Uranus and the Jupiter Neptune, which, yeah, it's a great combo, because it takes us into the magnetics of what's happening as well. And I think that's super interesting.
Yeah, and everything else that you've been talking about with Jupiter and Neptune is the enhanced psychic sensitivity, the enhanced sensitivity in general. The other thing I think is so important for spiritually minded people to remember is to cleanse your aura. Aura management is essential, especially right now where we are being bombarded with the 24-hour news cycle. We are bombarded and peppered with information all the time, much of it fearful, right? So our aura, our energy field, is the filter. And if we don't have a consolidated, powerful, cleansed energy field, that stuff comes through, and then it becomes orbiting debris in our energy field. And then we're affected by it. This is why, and I'm sure you've had many clients who are very empathic. I've had many clients who are so empathic that they end up being victimized by their own empathy. They can't go out into the world because the world affects them too much. And I say, okay, nobody taught you how to turn it on and turn it off. Nobody taught you how to have a consolidated energy field so that you filter. Because why would you want to be victimized by that beautiful sensitivity, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think, it's something I often say in videos, Kathy, is I feel so strongly, just turn off mainstream news. I haven't turned on for 2 years, because it can be so miserable if that's coming at you as a kind of onslaught all the time. You want life to come from you, not at you. I want to decide how I feel day to day. I don't want to be told how to feel, and particularly not if it's miserable and fearful, because we go from one big scary thing to another big scary thing to another big scary thing, and that will go on forever if you watch mainstream news. So just cut it out, and that's a lot of stuff to help you keep your aura in a better state. And sing, dance, hum, chant, hug a dog, hug a tree, hug a child. Simple free stuff to keep you in a good state, because I think the choice of I am going to choose how I feel, I'm going to choose my frequency on a day-to-day basis is so important. And we're really going to get this more, I think, with that combination of Jupiter, Neptune and Uranus, that we have mastery in those. We've lived so much from the outside in. This is the year to start living from the inside out, if you haven't done so already. Do you feel that's so?
Oh, absolutely. And when Neptune moves into Aries, and we're going to have some moments when Neptune and Saturn in the first few degrees of Aries meet up. They won't be an exact conjunction, but I'm looking at it. I have some dates written down, scribbled here, which is, really in 2025, 2026. There are some moments, June to August of 2025. Saturn, Neptune at the early degrees of Aries are going to be together. And then again in February of 26. Well, Neptune and Aries to me says spiritual pioneer.
Yeah. And spiritual leadership. Yeah, absolutely.
And it begins now while we are heading toward the anaretic degrees of Pisces, where everything's going to get really pressured to say, hey, learn this information, get it right. Yeah. But going back to aura cleansing, Aura management, you check your hair, you check your clothes. Why don't you check your energy field, right? Before we go on Zoom, we're going, wow, is my hair okay? You know, well, it's like, what about my energy field? Because your energy field affects how you are projected out into the world. It affects your own life force. People perceive you through your energy field.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And again, anybody can do that all for free. You know, again,
Exactly.
so easy to do. Because I feel we're moving, that combination again of Uranus and Neptune, Jupiter, Neptune is almost crystalline, isn't it? It's very high frequency, kind of sparkly energy, because Uranus, as we know, is the higher mind. It's the upward shift of consciousness, could be galactic, but also Jupiter, Neptune feels to me almost angelic, so high frequency and pure at its best. So that combination does feel crystalline. It feels much lighter. We're moving away from this kind of Saturn-Pluto density, these kind of jackboots on the street that we've had for the last 2 years. That's how it feels, so controlling and dense. And so we're starting to fly now. We're starting, well, certainly to swim with Jupiter and Neptune, but maybe also to fly. Uranus, the sky god, and therefore can go in quantum leaps, is my feeling.
Absolutely. And isn't it going to be interesting to see what happens actually on the physical plane on the Earth right around the time of the conjunction? I keep thinking of things dealing with the ocean. I'm wondering if we're going to have some news about whales or dolphins or fish or something, about the ocean that comes into the spotlight in mid-April, and maybe it'll be really good news. And of course, my favorite jam band is named Fish.
Yes, of course.
Oh,
they should be right out there. Yeah,
I know.
absolutely.
If I had an email for them, I'd say, hey, I don't know what their spring schedule is like. I know they just finished up something big in Mexico, but if they had a concert and said, hey, Jupiter, Neptune conjunct in the sign of the Fish, here we are, that would be jolly.
But and let's intend that all sea creatures thrive at that time.
Exactly.
That they absolutely thrive. And maybe they are upgrading as well as the whole Earth upgrades. Maybe every species is upgrading. That's my sense with the animals. I don't know if you feel that, Kathy.
Oh, gosh, yes, because it's the angelic kingdom. The angelic kingdom, the parallel kingdom to man, is the angels are the head honchos of the animal kingdom. So you talk to them and it's just pure life force. It's just pure lovingness, which is why there's so much healing by having a dog or a cat or a pet. This is why our blood pressure goes down when we just simply pet the dog or pet the cat, because there's so much unconditional love that's there and life force and purity. Yeah. So tapping into that.
Yeah, apparently you recover more quickly from serious illnesses if you have a dog or a cat. It's been researched very extensively. But also when I go walking in the mornings, because I live in an area of sort of 150 square miles of forest and heathland, and there are lots of wild ponies and donkeys, and I always stop and chat to them. But I feel maybe a kind of telepathy or an understanding of their feeling in a much finer way, I think, than I did before. And I'd love to do some work with it. My next episode in life, I would love to work with animals. I would love to, elephants, dogs, horses. I would love to work with animals because, as you say, Kathy, there's such purity, such love, and it's so uncomplicated, isn't it? They don't drag a suitcase of psychological baggage with them.
They live in the now.
Yeah.
They live completely present in the now.
Yeah.
Last night, my husband and I went on a walk, and about 4 or 5 blocks from here, there's a baseball field, a community baseball field. And often the community colleges will come and play. And we like to walk and sometimes watch the games. It's really fun to do that. Well, around that baseball field is a marsh with high, really tall trees. So we were sitting there, and in the middle of the game, 2 bald eagles flew over the field. I was the only one who saw them. I pointed it out. I nudged my husband and he saw them too. Everybody else, the crowd that was there, was so busy watching the game that they didn't see this very special signal of the 2 bald eagles flying overhead, and they were pretty low. And I thought to myself, now that's fascinating because not everybody chooses to see the symbols the messages, the special vibes that are there outside of ordinary life. And I was looking at that thinking, it's a real message about how caught up we can get in this little 3D view in the pressures of life, and and how much we miss around us that nature is trying to tell us, or the special spiritual signals all around us, the simple things.
That's beautiful. And it's a kind of peripheral sense, isn't it? Peripheral vision, peripheral sense. And it's also like, you can go into an old house and someone can see a ghost and the other person not. Again, it's the frequency match. But if we're looking out there, and there's a kind of reaching out to the cosmos with some of these aspects this year, rather than the fret about the minutiae of what we're allowed and not allowed to do, it's that kind of expansion of consciousness that I think more and more of us are really going to sense. And if we ask for that, if we ask for signs and symbols, if we ask for that new psychic or spiritual practice to come in, then we're magnetizing it to us in a bigger way, aren't we?
Absolutely. And 2 or 3 mindful steps that you incorporate in your daily practice, which would be being aware of your breathing every moment of every day, being aware of your breathing, because there's so much anxiety in the world right now, and so many triggers for anxiety, that the first thing that changes when an anxious response happens is your breathing. So being aware of your breathing, number 1. Number 2, knowing how to instantly and quickly relax. And that part of that is breathing. Number 3 would be to make sure you're aware of your energy field, cleanse it, circulate the energy, and also know how to manage the boundary of your aura. Different situations require different kinds of energy field maintenance.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And of course, you can just intend that, can't you, and visualize it. That is, it's a great reminder, Kathy. I mean, I can't go to cities. I've got a very, very tiny local town a mile away. I haven't been there for 2 years. I haven't been to a supermarket for 2 years. I just live as a bumpkin, actually.
Well, the kind of sensitivity you have, for people who are highly empathic and highly sensitive like you are, and I am too, I find if I go to a large city, or if I go to a place like that, if I do a light soul shift, that's where the soul shift comes in handy. Because if you shift your attention out into that soul bubble, which is above your head, so to speak, that's the doorway of it, you go into a higher level of objectivity. It allows you to see the plot behind the movie. And that, for example, if I went into a hospital and had to go visit somebody in the emergency room, I would do a light soul shift. I would do eyes open, but my energy focus would be up above my head somewhat, because then I'm able to see the soul as opposed to the suffering. I'm able to see the purpose. I'm able to see the bigger picture as opposed to feeling and absorbing the suffering. So it elevates that and it helps considerably. But yeah, so that's why if people just practice that soul shift, one of these days I want to record that on YouTube and actually do the whole soul shift meditation, guided meditation on YouTube, so that people can be led through that. But the objective is I want people to do it on their own without having to be led through it. Yeah, but it's a very important
But
thing.
if you give us a template, that's almost like service to humanity at the moment, isn't it, with all the fear and anxiety? So if you did it as a template, again, the Mavericks would adapt and find their own unique way of doing it. But isn't it interesting, Kathy? I think we are very much moving into a time where many of us are going to feel more than we ever have like a spiritual being as opposed to a human being.
Yes.
We're going to feel more like a soul than kind of a dense physical body. There's going to be quite a shift, I think. And I also think this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction it's almost like a tidal wave coming to wash away old blocks in us individually, but also to wash away a lot of the old structures in society. Do you feel that?
To open the door to compassion, but not to flow compassion into the I feel so sorry for you. There's a level of compassion that still sees other people as strong, still sees and remembers people are capable. And then there's a part of compassion that can go into, I see you as weak, or I pity you, or I feel sorry for you, which I think is expressing you're not up to the task of handling this. And oh my gosh, my moon in Aries kind of energy says, if I'm ever in a very tough place, I hope you project on me, hey, Kathy, I know you have this. You got this, girl. You can do it. Because that's what makes me feel better and pumps me up, not, oh, you poor thing. I feel so sorry for you. So I think Neptune, especially as it goes into Aries, we are preparing for this shift of Neptune and Aries. I think that's where it's going, appreciating the spiritual warrior. And we're in training for it right now.
And spiritual strength. And I think, the John the Baptist move for that is Jupiter moving into Aries, which is going to do in May.
Yes.
That's going to give us a glimpse possibly of what Neptune's like, because they're both rulers of Pisces, ancient and modern. Mm-hmm. And so, I very much do that with clients and friends, that I always say, you've come this far, and, pat yourself on the back at how well you've done, and be proud that you're a survivor and a hero, and you've triumphed over such difficult circumstances. This little obstacle is, no brainer. And I think people literally strengthen if you test them by kinesiology. They literally strengthen if they're given that feedback. And of course, that's where doctors' words become so powerful in terms of what they say to the patient, don't they, positively or negatively?
Yes, that's why if, I have a couple clients right now who have just had a cancer diagnosis. And I said, I am imagining your oncologist saying to you that we've got this. Your ability to heal is powerful and strong. And, you're going to work with me in this healing, because that's the other thing about this Jupiter Neptune is that body, mind, spirit awareness. One of the first things I did, I had the client who had a cancer diagnosis. I said, okay, now you are going into your own body, right? And you are visualizing or feeling or sensing or talking to that part of the body and adding light and using creative Maverick techniques, to eliminate the tumor, to dissolve the tumor. And she said, I'm supposed to do that? And I said, it's not that you're supposed to do that. It's just that you can do that. She goes, nobody told me that. And so we talked about how to do that. But it's like the Maverick mentality. It's like, what can I do that is creative? And I don't need to be trained. I'll just jump in and do it.
Yeah. And I think it's a lot about the light. That's my very strong feeling at the moment. It's a lot about the light. How much more light can we hold in our bodies as, we're moving through this very different point in space? And the level of consciousness, I feel, will determine the level of light we can hold. And it's coming at us, boom, 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 in such waves. And it's electromagnetic. Yeah. And hence, the heart palpitations, the dizziness, the ringing in the ears, the insomnia, which certainly I've suffered from recently. It's like, zzz, we're being charged up, aren't we? Mm-hmm. We're being charged up electromagnetically, and we are electromagnetic beings way ahead of being chemical beings.
Yes.
The heart is electromagnetic. When you have an ECG, that's what they're measuring, the electromagnetic strength of your heart. And so this massive kind of upgrade that we're going through at such speed is what in one sense causes the anxiety, but in another sense, if we can turn it into excitement about what's coming, it has a very different meaning, and we're able to handle it in a very different way.
The Pisces paradigm is playful and frolicking. It's not heavy. It's not serious. It's abstract and playful. And so there needs to be this playfulness about it, this lightness of spirit that comes about. And, so instead of workshops, we all need play shops instead of, it's just so important to not take it so seriously. I mean, certainly world events that are going on right now require a serious look. I mean, there's a lot of them too. But at the same time, we all need to schedule in time to frolic, I think, and just play whatever that happens to be, whatever it happens to be. That's why I'm so thankful. I babysit my daughter's dog a couple times a week. And, the whole time he's here, all we do is play. And it's like the most refreshing, most wonderful thing that can happen. I threw the ball with him for 3 hours last time he was here. It's like, how long can this dog go get that ball? But it was just so joyful and zen-like. And I realized this is Jupiter and Neptune and Pisces in action here. It's just being in the moment, laughing and having fun.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do, Kathy. I don't have my own dog because I'm too busy, but every morning I borrow my neighbour's dog. She's very elderly. He's a 3-year-old Labrador. And I can be a 5-year-old child again. We go down through the woods, we go over the river, which is all full of, it's one of the best little streams in Europe for dragonflies and butterflies. And I'll throw that ball as you do 1,000 times. And I can be a 5-year-old child again. And the Pisces energy is so malleable. It's so morphing and malleable because it doesn't have a boundary. And that's my joy. That's my play. That's my laughter. That's my silliness and lightness before I come back and live through a screen for the rest of the day. And that's so essential, not only for the play, but also for the grounding. Because this Jupiter Neptune is quite high, isn't it? We've got to be very much on the earth as well. And that's my sanity, those times in the morning in nature, because you get, the Japanese call it forest bathing, don't they? You get such energetic nurturing from nature as well. So that's where I think my real playfulness comes in with my neighbour's dog, and I'm his second mum, and we just have great fun. And also the link with animals, I think that telepathic connection, which is becoming stronger and stronger. I know how he feels. I know what he wants to do. And that to me is just so, as you say, so pure, so beautiful, and often much more high pitched than a relationship with another human.
And so simple.
Yeah.
And as you were talking about that dog and the experience of play, your aura just surged and became bright and huge. And when you said, until I come back and live through the screen, your aura contracted. So maybe even, which is what happens when we work and we concentrate. If we work too long and concentrate, our aura just, it gets really tight and it contracts. Here's another technique to help with the aura. And I taught this to my children's university they went to. They went to JMU, James Madison University. And I was fortunate enough to be asked by the university to come up and teach meditative techniques to the students. They had a program called Madison Meditates, which was just incredible. And so I would come up before the kids were doing finals, very pressured time, right, during finals. And I taught them a technique called the sky blend, which is if you are doing super concentrated work, especially inside, and it's pressured and, you get that intensity and everything contracts, take a moment and just go outside, look up at the sky and blend out into the sky. Doesn't matter if there are clouds or if it's a sunny day, just blend out, reach out with your consciousness, and your aura will expand out into the sky. And it's like having a soul deep breath, And when I work, I have a big window over here and I'm out looking at the forest the whole time. And if I'm doing, a massive amount of back-to-back clients all day long, I'm looking outside and I'm blending out into the trees to keep my aura expanded and fresh. But it's these little techniques we can do on a daily basis to support our own Neptune.
So, Kathy, are you teaching this? Because this is so precious. It's free, simple, and precious. Everybody can, particularly when times are so unstable, and particularly to optimize that Jupiter-Neptune upsurge. I mean, this would be beautiful. I mean, maybe you are teaching it somewhere. I'm not aware of it, but, it would be such a service to humanity to share this in some way. I mean, you're sharing it with me now, but in a bigger way to the world.
Well, I have to say, the most fulfilling thing I've ever done is to teach those free soul methods. It's from that course that Pete Sanders initiated. He's in Sedona, Arizona. He's been a guest on this podcast 3 times. The most fulfilling thing I've ever done is that, because I'm sharing techniques and methods and a mindset so that people can be free. They can find their own techniques. They can get in touch with the universe. And I used to have a DVD series called Activate Your Intuition. It was, I think, 4 DVDs or 3 DVDs. I sold out of that. We lost the video part of it, so we can't recreate it in a download now. So I have been thinking of starting some classes and putting them on Zoom and making them available. I used to teach meditation here at my house, and I had a big group that would come twice a month, and we would teach these techniques. And then COVID came and that sort of broke up. But, learning how to do this and incorporating it into your daily habit, and I can describe to you the sky blend. Take that soul deep breath and you can go do it. It's just, you may not have ever been conscious of that's what was happening. You've done it before unconsciously, but when you consciously need it and you can apply it on command, that's what's important. To say, wow, my aura feels really tight. My energy is just like super tightened up. Maybe I need to go have a soul deep breath and expand it. Takes 2 minutes or less. Practical techniques to keep your energy rejuvenated. And it's that awareness that I think is part of what this Jupiter-Neptune energy is going to be about.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, because as you say, we may have been doing it unconsciously, but to be aware of what we're doing helps us to live more consciously, to be more aware of our energy, of our spirit, of our soul, of our frequency. That's what it does. It puts a clearer focus from a higher level on it, and that's what it's teaching people to live more consciously and teaching them energy management, which is so vital at this time, and the energies are so turbulent. Yeah, that would be wonderful, Kathy. Yeah, you really should do that. You're brilliant at it.
Thank you. Well, and it's even the highly empathic people who can't go to a grocery store because the grocery store clerk may be going through a divorce and emitting emotional energy, and they would pick it up. And I say to them, you really can learn to close it off and understand none of that is your business. You don't have to sense it. You can strengthen your aura and you can change your focus so that you can go out in public and not pick up what everybody's feeling. I had to learn to do that. I could not have been an astrologer for all these years, talking to clients going through such intensity, if I had not learned to do that. And yes, I used to go into the world and feel what everybody is feeling, pick up on what they are emitting. And it's like, it's none of my business. I don't want it. I've learned to turn it on and turn it off when I need it. And how many women I've talked to, especially women, who have said, I never thought I could do that. I didn't think you could turn it on or off. It's like,
you're a master at this, Kathy, with all of your background and experience. You're a real master at that. And we've all got to develop a greater mastery in precisely this at this time. Yeah. Otherwise, life becomes too wild, I think, out there.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you said earlier, to want to be in charge of your own state of mind, to desire that instead of, I have no control. My state of mind is depending on what's going on in the world. I go, no, it's not. It doesn't have to be anyway. I want to be in control of it.
That's so vital, isn't it, as a shift? Because, in the old days, I would get up and turn on the radio or the television. But that isn't the agenda I choose for my day. That's not a good start point for the day. Yeah. I'd rather listen to sacred music or just be aware of my breath or, be out in nature, as I say. So being very conscious that the best life lived comes from the inside out.
When Neptune goes into Aries, maybe that really is connecting with the inner authority in such a way that says, I can be a spiritual pioneer. I can self-channel my own techniques. I can get my own answers rather than looking for it through other people. I think we're headed there.
Self-generating in that way, I think. And that's what's so exciting, that the energy is available for us to use as, it's modeling clay, isn't it? It's modeling clay, and it's up to us with our own choice of thoughts and emotions as to how that clay is modeled. And it may be utterly different from anybody in our family, our friends, our next door neighbor, because we're very much on our individual path right now, more than we've ever been, because the bandwidth for humanity, I think, is so much greater. So the realities lived are much wider than I think we've ever had them before. There's a massive fork in the road.
Yeah. One other thing I think may start coming into view in the next few years, starting now, is how there's a lot of study about using psychedelics like psilocybin to treat depression and anxiety. Teeny tiny microdoses, nanodoses or microdosing. And they're actually studying it in some programs. There's a university out in California, and I can't remember which one, but they're doing a big study on it with doctors and professionals, actually looking at how these teeny tiny little doses open the brain, and it's acting like medicine to help release PTSD, release anxiety, release fears. And I think we're going to start seeing that. Isn't that a classic manifestation of Neptune?
Jupiter Neptune expands the consciousness. Yeah, absolutely perfect for Jupiter Neptune. That's wonderful. And if we're dealing with microdoses, then that's perfectly safe as well. But I mean, this was happening a lot in the 60s, wasn't it, with Ram Dass and the Beatles and, that whole scene. But it did advance us. That was a very rich time in history, and it did take us another step forwards in our sense of spirituality, I think. And that's what's going to be happening big. It's almost like we're going through a portal, I feel, like a wormhole or a portal with this conjunction into another dimension that may even mean that we almost forget what's gone before. That's my sense. It may even dissolve our sense of our lives lived up to that point. I don't know why I'm saying that, but
years and years ago, therapists used to say, no, if you were traumatized when you were 2, that trauma is going to stay with you your whole life. And I never bought into that. Said, no, you can heal your brain. Come on. You can release patterns. You can change those neural pathways. And scientists are more and more understanding how much you can get in there and do that. You can heal these things, and you can release those traumas as opposed to bringing them around like baggage that you carry everywhere you go.
It's a kind of neuroplasticity.
Thank you. That's it.
Neuroplasticity. And this is really at the heart of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work.
Yes.
That you can, release the old you and birth a completely new you by changing those neural pathways through deep meditation.
But guess what? Nobody can do it for you. You have to initiate it, and you have to say, I want to do this, and I'm going to find a way, and I'm going to create it. And this is why they say the very best biofeedback and the most effective biofeedback for healing is where you take the most creative and abstract approach. So one of the things that I've done when I've had issues in the body that I need to heal is sometimes I picture the light coming in like peroxide. If there's an infection, if there's something I want to clear, I imagine the light kind of bubbles and fizzes like peroxide does. Because then I get not only a visual, but I get an auditory component of it, dissolving whatever I want. And because it's just a creative approach. But the more creative you are in your feeling or visualization or words that you use with your biofeedback, the more effective it is. Now, doesn't that say playful, frolicking? It's talking about the vibe of frolicking, which lifts you up, as opposed to this serious, compartmentalized, I've got to get it right energy.
Yeah, it's very cleansing. I can really feel that. And I think this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction feels very cleansing. It's almost like if you can imagine you're standing under a waterfall. Yes. With all those incredible healing negative ions, that energy, which is just so effervescent and vibrant. And you can cleanse, you can imagine that you're cleansing blockages or conditions in the body that you just want to let go now. And that can be, I think, quite a vivid image. And you can do that, through your day, through your meditation. When you're in the shower, you can imagine you're under a waterfall. And there's something very purifying and cleansing and uplifting, I think, also with that.
One of the first paintings I ever did, and again, I have no art training, so I just had to bravely step up to the canvas and go, I'm just going to play and try this. Well, one of the first paintings was having a waterfall that came out of the universe. So it's spiritual waterfall in a foresty area, and a woman standing underneath the waterfall with her arms open, having it pour through her. And the splashes, coming out. And to me, that was really indicative of stepping into the flow, letting the universal energy wash through you and fill your cells. An easy thing to do, if you can imagine the smiley face, the little smiley face icon or emoji that we use. Sometimes I just simply imagine all my cells are smiley faces. The millions, the billions, I don't know how many cells we have in our body, but I just picture them sometimes smiley faces, just, going all through the body, just, in the bloodstream. And because then what my consciousness goes is everybody's happy.
Yeah.
And they smile at my organs and my organs smile back. So that every cell in my body is a smiley face. And that's a fun technique. I'm a visual person, so I could do it. Some people may just want to feel it instead of seeing it or say the words, if they're auditory. But it is having the initiative to not only come up with a technique and then apply it and then value it without having some authority needing to tell you, good job, that's a good technique.
And I think your phrase there, Kathy, is so perfect, of being in the flow. There's a sense of surrender with this, that when life is unsteady, it's so human to want to kind of, hang on to what's familiar structures, jobs, relationships, whatever. But there's a big, big sense of surrender and just go with this higher flow that's coming in for you. And there's a time slippage, isn't there? I often notice there's a time slippage where, you've driven along a piece of road and all of a sudden you're driving over it again and you think, what's just happened? And if you're looking for a pair of scissors and you look everywhere on all the worktops and then you come back 10 minutes later and there are the scissors right on the worktop.
That happens frequently. And that used to happen all the time when I was making mandalas. Absolutely. You'd put something down and it would be on my art table. I would put down these sacred tweezers I have that I used to use to manipulate paper. And I love those tweezers because you can't find them anymore. Put it down, went to go do something else, went back, the tweezers were not there. And it's like I cleared the whole table. They were not there. Came back the next day, there they were. These things happen and more people are talking about them. For me, it's normal. It's been happening for years, but it's happening more. And you can tend to think you're just nuts. You look in your pantry for the honey, you can't find it. You go back, there it is. It's like, what happened? This is the time frame we're in.
Yeah, there's the slippage between dimensions for sure. And I often say, if I can't find the car keys or whatever, come on down, guys, stop this cosmic joke. Because I know it's here somewhere.
Yes.
And it's like that. It's a greater and greater sense of slippage into other dimensions. And also, I think we'll feel that very physically in our bodies as well.
Yes. Which is why we are unlimited. And if we want to heal something or rejuvenate something, guess what? Take initiative and get going on it. Be creative, have fun. Don't take it so seriously. You don't have to do it eyes closed. More and more of meditation is eyes open right now, because I think that's where we're supposed to go, is bringing those dimensions into everyday experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an incredible spiritual frontier. Incredible.
And it's very much, isn't it, creating your own reality by, you are the inside of your bubble and you're going to determine what comes into your bubble, which is not to say we're not cognizant of what's going on in the world. I think that's important, but we're not engaging with negative emotion and being totally dragged in and affected by it in a negative way.
Yeah.
In fact, we're better able to help, I think, if we can kind of go raise ourselves above the fray, because we can come back in and pour in positive energy. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day. It only takes a tiny percentage of us to positively affect the collective.
Yes.
And so that's our role, isn't it, in part?
It is. It is. Walking through the grocery store with lovingness and happiness in your energy field makes more of a difference than you can possibly imagine. Possibly. Because everywhere you go, that energy is going with you. But people need to understand this: staying in charge of your own state of mind, this aura maintenance, this shifting to the soul level, it requires your participation. Nobody's going to do it for you. And this is what I don't like to hear, is when people go, well, it's too hard, or, I don't think I'm capable. And it's like, oh, come on, rise up, get on board and do it. Just, believe in yourself enough to apply these techniques without fear, without wondering if you're going to make a mistake, without needing somebody else to tell you how to do it. Just get on board and do it.
Yeah, and I read something a few years ago. It's a bit cheesy, but it really stuck with me. Be a smile millionaire.
Oh, yes.
Be a smile millionaire. And because the smiles ripple out, and particularly now, we
Mm-hmm.
can start to shed the masks, etc. It's that ripples out. Because if you smile at somebody, they will mirror that, and they'll smile at someone else in their day. And that has real value. That can lift this frequency very quickly.
Yeah, show up for your own happiness.
Yeah.
Show up. Yeah. Well, I think we've just solved the problems of the world here.
That was beautiful. I really enjoyed that, Kathy. That was a beautiful, very Piscean meandering.
That's my favorite kind. Yes.
Yeah, through the ethereal, through the invisible. It was a delight, actually. And that also, it felt very playful. It was wonderful.
Yes. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And you are such a blessing to the world in all that you do. And so many people are affected by your message. I hope you are replenishing and frolicking and having fun, because you do big work, and I thank you so much for coming on once again.
Oh, I loved it, Kathy, and you are doing immense work in the world. You're doing a lot with your teaching as well. So you are really helping the world raise its frequency. You are in service to humanity.
Thank you. So I like to say, till we meet again, till next time. And you be well, and sending you lots of love and blessings.
Yeah, lots of love. Tons of love from here, Kathy. Tons of love. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.